Hello DevOps friends, hello Moo, how you doing? Welcome to Full Stack Live. I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor, and this is my live coding stream on Tuesday. I hope you're having a great day. And yeah, today we are going to do a lot of automation topics. First of all, we need to finish my work on the MySQL monitoring that I've been setting up in Chef. And if the time allows, we'll also do a little bit of Ansible after that. So automation is what it's all about today here on Full Stack Live, and I hope you will accompany me and have a conversation, because this doesn't have to be a monologue for 2 or 3 hours. And let's pop into chat. If you have any questions, if there's anything that you'd like to share, that's what chat is for. Mu asks, what was that analogous thing on your wall? That was a clock. But it was a clock that was built after the Amiga workbench of the Commodore Amiga, one of the early computers I had. The Amiga was one of the first home computers with a graphical interface, and so having an analog clock on your desktop was really something special. And that is why I immediately snatched this clock when I got aware of it. Someone shared it, I think on Mastodon, and I immediately went and ordered it. So it's basically the Amiga workbench with the analog clock, and the clock actually works. Let me get it off the wall for you. So this is how it looks. The Amiga. What a great machine. Not only did I learn C on that machine, I also learned about libraries, graphics libraries and things like that. No, it doesn't do any sound. That would drive me crazy. That would drive me crazy. I would have to wear headphones all the time. Which I already have to because, yeah, kids and you know. Balthasar, good morning. Hope you're having a better day than yesterday. Or did someone else drop some kind of unexpected work in your lap again? All right, so yeah, as I said, It's Me Brooks is there as well. Hello. People coming in, bit by bit. From city to bad in a heartbeat. As Mondays, am I right? Bad case of the Mondays. You definitely have my sympathy. So yeah, I've been working on Prometheus for quite some time, and at the moment MySQL monitoring is my main focus, and I'd like to finish that part today. That's what I'm going to start with, and if time allows, I'd like to dabble a little bit in Ansible automation as well. I had the idea that I could use Ansible to spin up VMs for my students when I do an online course, a live course, workshop, setting up cloud instances for each student, and already cloning a repository with course material in their home directory, things like that. So yeah, that's something that I'd like to try. If time allows, we'll add that to the agenda. Good outcomes, that's great to hear. It's not all bad. Let me take care of my laptop here for a minute, because I wanted to run an update while it's on Wi-Fi. Usually I only switch it on at the coffee shop, and I never have enough bandwidth to do updates and stuff like that there. So I should spin it up here at home from time to time. That's that. Let's see. Do we have an update? Not yet. Let's try one. Okay. Oh, you found a how to. You are, of course, right. Nix would be another option for that, but how exactly would Nix help in this context if you want to give people access to their own course environment. I'd assume it has to do with Nick's shell, but yeah, if you can link it in chat, I'll definitely have a look. My current plan is simply to spin up cloud instances, one for each student, where they can log in with their own name, so machines don't get confused, or the students don't confuse machines, and then cloning a Git repository in their home directory so that they can hit the ground running. And that is pretty much doable with Ansible. It's a simple iteration and using the built-in Ansible resources. I did a little bit of legwork investigating how it would be done, but I haven't implemented it yet. So that's something that I'm pretty excited about, actually. All right, but let's start with Chef. Here we have the Chef repository that I'm working in, and I've already checked out the branch that I was working on recently. And now I have to find out what my actual status here is. I don't really remember. Where I left off. Let's see. Here's the MySQL exporter, and that gets installed and implemented as a system service. How about tests? Here's the MySQL test. So up until now, we only have a simple connection test here. Yes, I do remember we did actually, I think, set up a MySQL recipe where we installed a MySQL server in the test environment. And then I wanted to try and see if I can get some metrics out of that. That would actually require having credentials, but if we use maybe the root user as our user, then we could get around having to set up an additional MySQL user. And since it's only for testing, I don't mind using the default user, which is the root user. Ephemeral environment with Nick's shell. Okay, yeah, that's a use case Nick's shell is built for, isn't it? Let me see. Okay. DevOps toolkit. Yeah, he's switched completely from Docker environments to Nix. I am following his YouTube channel as well. But that's not exactly the use case I have, where I want to have various people logging into various accounts in different environments where they, for example, can use the same port. So you would have to have some kind of separation in terms of networking and things like that. So it's either Docker for that or full-fledged VMs. And I think since I'm going to use Ansible, using VMs is not too heavyweight. But let's keep that for later. Thanks for the link anyway. All right. I'd say let's spin up a test environment so I can see where we are at the moment. That's TKC MySQL Ubuntu-2004. So if you're not familiar with what I'm doing, I'm using Chef to spin up infrastructure. That's how we manage hundreds of Linux servers for our managed hosting platform. And Chef comes with a testing utility named Test Kitchen. And Test Kitchen uses Vagrant to spin up VMs that then get Chef installed, and after that they'll install your cookbook, which is your infrastructure code, and then they'll execute that code to set up the machine, and then they'll also execute tests that you've defined beforehand to make sure that the VM looks like it's supposed to look. And that's what's happening at the moment. So the VM has been started and Chef is already running here, going through all the so-called recipes that instruct Chef how to set things up. And yeah, now we'll have to wait until it's finished and then I can inspect what the result of the whole thing is.
Flush the bombers, get the subs in launch mode. We are at DEFCON 1. DEFCON 1?
DEFCON 1! Hello, Raiders! Feel free to use the exclamation mark attack command and a hype train on the way as well. That is amazing! Shari makes art. Thanks for the raid. Raiders, come in and use the exclamation mark attack command, and viewers use the defend command to see who can actually take over the stream. So, Shari, how's it going? What have you been doing? Shari does actually make great art. She does all kinds of stuff that I wish I would be able to do, but I can't draw for the life of me, neither digital nor analog. So yeah, if you are looking for art stuff, I'm pretty sure Shari is the better contact in that regard. Was working on persistent apps using Kotlin, but unfortunately was a little stuck today. There are days like that. I know that. I can relate. Thanks for clarifying that, Sir Peanut X. That's a brilliant disguise, actually. All right. That makes my imposter syndrome even worse. Being able to do art and do DevSecOps. Well, anyway, Raiders, thanks for stopping by. This is Full Stack Live. I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor, and here we mostly do infrastructure stuff. And at the moment, I'm in the process of setting up the infrastructure code to get MySQL monitoring via Prometheus set up on our database clusters. And I've just run the test suite here to get a local VM set up with the code that I've created so far, simply to see how far I actually got, because yeah, I think I took a break from this code for 2 weeks or so, and now I need to refresh my memory where I'm actually at and how far from the finishing line I'm actually am. Balthasar is right. Yeah, I do make music from time to time, so that's that. That's how I compensate for not being able to know where the business end of a pencil or a brush is. At least I've got that going for myself. All right, so yeah, that's the VM spun up. And let me get my do not disturb mode going. Otherwise, I'll always get distracted by notifications. So let's log into our machine. With TKC, I can converge my test VM, and with TKS, I can log into it. So Pinotix says, fellow SRE here, we use AWS Cloud Development Kit for infrastructure and CloudWatch for all of our monitoring. Yeah, that's the main benefit of using one of the hyperscalers. You get components for each and every need. On the other hand, of course, you are pretty much tied to that infrastructure provider in that regard. That's always the up and downside of these things. Sharis, I wish I could make music, then I would truly be a game dev menace. Probably, but you'd still have to solve the time conundrum. That's what I'm battling with all the time, because I would do so many things. I would do all the things if only I had the time. But alas, I can't buy additional hours in the day. I'm skipping it. Welcome to the stack. Thanks for the follow. Okie dokie. So here we are in the VM. Let's get root. I would say we should have MySQL running. That's what we need to test everything. We should also have Prometheus running. Shari, that simply is the definition of a generalist. And I think generalists are always... being a generalist will always be a good thing, because being able to have a broad horizon and a broad spectrum, being able to cover a broad spectrum of topics is kind of an inoculation against AI and machine learning. If you're just a specialist in one specific topic, that has its upsides, of course, as well, but it also makes you a little bit vulnerable. So Pinadic says, by the way, I saw a funny Reddit post in /SRE today. The question was how to explain your job to your friends and family as an SRE. The popular answer was, I don't. Yeah. Actually, let me see. I have something for you here. Wait. Give me just a second. There we go. I watched this thing multiple times and I cried every time. All right, so Prometheus is running as well. How about the MySQL exporter then? MySQL exporter, no such service. I should do a DevOps ASMR stream from time to time. Simply having nice music in the background and doing these affirmations. Your family understands what you're doing. There will be no incident today. DevOps is an actual word. Yep. That's something I need to do. You know what? I think I'll make that a viewer reward. It'll cost you a few inodes, but we'll do that. Okay, so let me check why there is no MySQL exporter service. Probably because it's simply named differently. Yes, it's named with an underscore. That's all there is to it. But still, there's no service. Okay. Well, there should be a system to unit MySQL d.export. Okay, okay. Details matter, don't they? Oh, and it's failed. Why did it fail? Error passing host config. Ah, I see. It tries to read the .my.cnf, and I think there isn't any. Aha. That's where we're stuck at the moment. It's the whole authentication thing. I haven't set that up yet. Maybe I should have added a few to-do comments here, simply to guide future me to the next action. So that's what we need to do, not only in our test scenario, but in general, because on our production machines, of course, MySQL D exporter needs to have access to the local MySQL D as well. So how am I going to go about that? Let me think. The MySQL exporter is going to use the Prometheus user, and the Prometheus user lives in varlib Prometheus. So if you're not familiar with Chef, Chef is actual Ruby code, but it's a domain-specific language, a DSL, that tries to hide the fact that it's actually Ruby, and you simply write these resource blocks, and these blocks always start with the name of the resource or the type. The type here is user, and the name is a node attribute that we are fetching from this hash. So we are setting up a user here, then we're setting up a directory, which is not by coincidence the home directory of that user. Then we set up a group for the same user and another directory where the configuration is going to live. And that's how you basically write imperative code that sets up all the things that you need to have on your Linux server. And I guess we'll have to put a .my.cnf in the home directory here of Prometheus, which is going to be varlib Prometheus. Yeah, why not do that? Since we have to put variable information in this file, namely not only the username, which can be hardwired, but also the password, which of course needs to be variable and we need to be able to change the password without having to deploy the code again, so we can't hardwire that in the code. And we'll use the node hash for that too. Since this file isn't static, but has to use dynamic information, we're going to use a template. A template is simply a file that contains placeholders, and the template is going to live at the at somewhere where I'm going to use a variable for the path. How am I going to name this variable? We'll call it credentials file, and almost Copilot, it's going to be varlib Prometheus myCNF, but hardwiring that will cause issues in the future because the home directory itself, if I recall correctly, nope, it's actually hardwired. We didn't make that a node attribute like the username here. So I can actually reuse the path here without a guilty conscience, even though it'll make changing this directory hard if there ever is a need for it. Apparently, I didn't see any need or didn't foresee any need for that. Otherwise, I would have made it variable. Yeah, let's trust past me, and we'll simply set this up. Oh, no, that's just the credentials file. Well, if it's just a string, we can actually do without the variable. We'll simply write this. Then we'll have to define the source, which is, I think, going to be the my.cnf.erb. I'm not going to make this a hidden file by adding the dot in front in this case, because, yeah, that will just confuse people. The owner has to be the Prometheus user, but this time it's actually a node attribute that comes from this huge node hash, where I'm first fetching the Prometheus X key and then its user key, and the value of that user key then defines the user. And Copilot already added the group and the mode, and they are actually correct. Do we have to use any variables? I don't think so. We could introduce local variables that we can then use in the template, but we also will have access to the node hash within the template, so I think I don't have to explicitly pass in any variables. The design part of my brain just asked if it would make sense to have these variables attribute here simply to have a explicit interface. And explicit is always more maintainable than implicit. That's something that I haven't done so far. That's a new thought, actually. Oh, welcome, Sanbika. I didn't see you coming in there. Welcome to the stack. Sanbika asked, I have a question. I'm new to programming. Should I learn C# or Python? Of course, my first answer will be what you'll always hear when you ask questions that don't have much context with them, and that is, it depends. It depends mainly if you have a specific use case in mind. Both are great programming languages. I think Python will probably be a little bit more generic and more versatile. I would, if you only have the choice between these two, I would recommend Python. C# is great as well, especially if you want to do something that requires C#, of course. So if you are going to do game development with Unity, you'll probably choose C#, but if it's just about learning programming, you'll get a lot more learning materials and things like that for Python. So that would be what I would recommend without having any more context. Okay, so let me think about that new thought. Would it be a good idea to always pass in specific values to have this interface? I would say in general it would. If you want to pass in anything that is not available in the node object or in the node hash anyway. So, because if all you need is the node attributes hash, then you would probably end up with something like that would probably deteriorate or devolve into something like this, where you say, okay, I'll pass in a variable called node, and that has all the values or is actually a representation of the existing node hash, just to not have to list each and every key that you need to reference within the template. So that, of course, is nonsense. But if you have anything that can't be taken from the node hash, then you need to use the variable attribute anyway. And actually, in that case, I would actually recommend passing in a single object. Always passing in a single object. That's something that I try to make a habit when I write templates for Rails. Instead of passing in all kinds of variables and names and having to reference those in the template, it's much better to simply pack everything into a single object and make the template basically a presenter for this object. And that way you always will only pass in one object instead of a whole list of stuff that you have to extend all the time. Instead, you pass in a single object and extend that object if need be. If that makes any sense to you. If not, ask questions in chat. I'm more than happy to answer questions. So, with that, I would say all we have to do now is to actually create this template, which happens in the templates directory under default by default. So let's add the my.cnf.erb file in here. And that will have to have a key MySQL, if I recall correctly. And then there's user. And we'll have to make that a node attribute. So I'll introduce a placeholder here where I'll access node. All the node attributes for this specific cookbook that sets up Prometheus and its MySQL exporter lives under the Prometheus X namespace. And under there, we'll have a MySQL username. I don't think I'll have to make this a lot longer to make it explanatory. I could name it MySQL monitoring username, but since this whole cookbook is about Prometheus and monitoring anyway, I think the context is clear. So I'll try and keep things short if you can actually derive stuff from this context. And then we'll need to have another node attribute that's going to be MySQL password. Okay. XD got creepered. Hello to you too. Welcome to the stack. I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor, and I'm doing infrastructure code. Setting up monitoring for MySQL using Prometheus and its MySQL exporter. Can I explain what DevOps means? DevOps means a lot of things to a lot of people, but I think the main meaning from back in 2009, when the term was coined, is that it's a way of thinking. DevOps is not a job. DevOps is not a department. It's a way of thinking, and it's a set of processes that basically unite development and operations in order to get the business result that has been the goal all along. And in order to understand this unification, you basically need to know about the history where in the past the tribes of developers and operations people were enemies. I'm watching too much Avatar with my little son. So you have the developers tribe and the operations tribe. And the developers always want to go fast. They want to use the latest features. They want to use the latest programming languages, the latest programming frameworks, and they are getting paid for innovation. The operations tribe, on the other hand, get paid for stability. They need to keep things running day and night, and the main enemy of keeping things running is change. So basically, you have the developers who get paid for change, and the operations people who get paid for preventing change, because change will always introduce new risks. And so that's why, especially in big organizations, developers and operations people had very opposite incentives, and that was always a conflict. But in the end, it's not about what developers get paid for or what operations people get paid for. It's about what the business wants to achieve. And that's the goal for both tribes. And so the DevOps movement aimed at introducing a way to think and a way to collaborate, finally, that would give developers a sense of what operations needs to do, and operations a sense for what developers are aiming at, and find ways and tools that would allow both tribes to basically develop an application or something like that and get it rolled out in production and get it in front of customers who will then pay for that. That's the actual business goal. And so that's how all these things like continuous integration, for example, came to be, where developers can check in their changes, things get tested automatically, making sure that it doesn't explode right in the second it gets deployed to production, hopefully. But also, for example, things like observability that does allow developers to get a sense of how their code is behaving in production, not only on their laptops where everything is always hunky-dory. Yeah, so DevOps is about making or building a coherent process from inception, from the idea, let's build product X, to its operation in production. Exactly, because otherwise and I've experienced that myself in my corporate past, you had this so-called wall of confusion where that prevented developers from seeing what operations does and vice versa. And developers would always just throw their change over the wall, hoping that someone in operations would pick it up and get it somehow into production on these servers, whatever that is. So tearing down this wall of confusion, this metaphorical wall, was also one of the goals of DevOps. By now, the term DevOps has been used for all kinds of things. Suddenly, there are DevOps engineers, which probably means that these are people that specialize in building tooling that bridges this gap. From the original idea, it wasn't a job description. It was more a way to go about things. Yeah, you can also do DevOps certifications now and things like that. So you need to take everything around that with a grain of salt. But yeah, that's what I've described just now, is basically how the term DevOps came to be and what it originally meant. Hope that helped. Glad to see it. Okay, so we don't have these node attributes set yet, so it's time to define them. Let me see. Oh, we actually have an additional namespace, as you can see here for the other exporters that I already have set up here. There is, under the cookbook name, which is Prometheus X, I'm just using a variable here to make sure that I don't have typos by repeating that string over and over again. There is an actual level in between dedicated to each of these exporter modules or exporter plugins. So we'll have to modify that. I'll actually copy the node exporter block here because that conveniently has two entries, because we need the MySQLD username, and we'll make that root by default, and then we'll need the MySQLD password, and we'll make that secret. So apparently, obviously, this needs to be replaced, and instead of node, wait, what? We need to make this MySQLD exporter. Okay, so let's go back here and introduce this additional level in our hash, MySQLD exporter. Same here. Okay, and that should be enough, actually. Wait, where did I put the template? Did I put that in the... okay, I did put it in the test cookbook. That's not where it belongs. I need to have it in the actual cookbook here, and since we are already going to spin up the service here in this systemd unit where we create, enable, and start the service, the credentials need to be set up already when this happens, and Chef does execute these recipes in the order the resources are in here, so mostly at least. Actually, Got Creeper says, I only know a little bit of Python currently, but right now I'm in between a few entrance exams. I will get some courses on Python. Currently, I'm spending my free time on an RPG game on a Discord bot in Python. That's brilliant. That is exactly what I recommend to people who ask me, how do I get started with development and things like that? Simply pick something that tickles your fancy. Pick a programming language that is general enough that you're not tied to your specific use case and you can expand on other topics later. And Python is a perfect example for that, Ruby too. So yeah, that is definitely a great way to go about things. I hope you're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of success with that. So, with that, we should get our my.cnf file written. I'm not sure if Prometheus will pick it up right away, but we can take care of that in a minute. Let's run another converge run, which will leave everything as it is because it's already set up, but I've added this template resource, so that file will be created. Everything else is already as it's supposed to be. And that was quick. It should have created the MySQL-D file in the home directory for Prometheus, and that's actually the case. Success. And let's see, it did write the credentials to the file. That's also great. I think if we change this credentials file, we also need to have the MySQL-D exporter to be at least reloaded, if not restarted. So let's see, can we do a system control reload MySQL-D _ exporter? There is no reload. Okay, so the only thing that we can do is restart. And let's see if the status has changed. Error passing host config, still the .my.cnf is missing. It says no configuration found because I think it doesn't look in the Prometheus user's home directory by default. We need to actually supply a path for that. But let's code what I just said, which is if we change this template or if we create it, which is a change too, we need to notify the service to restart. In this case, it's going to be the MySQL-D exporter. And it's notify, not notify. And yeah, the systemd unit is MySQL-D exporter.service. So I think we actually need to add the .service here. This needs to be the same. Let's see if that actually works. It still won't get the MySQL-D exporter working because of the path that I mentioned, but let's delete the my.cnf, which means if I rerun chef here, it will recreate the file, and this time it'll restart the MySQL-D service. And that did fail because is configured to notify the resource service with action, but service MySQL-D exporter service cannot be found. So I was wrong. Apparently the service, oh no, it's not a service, it's a systemd unit, as is easily seen here. I need to use the resource type, systemd unit, and then the name of this resource, and that is actually MySQL-D exporter.service. So it has to be one-to-one and identical, but I also need to use the correct resource name. So let's give this another try. This time it won't try and restart it because I think it's already created the file. Last time I ran this, and so there is no change actually. So let's remove that file again and have it recreated. And now it needs to at least try and restart the MySQL D exporter. It still won't work, but it did actually restart this unit, yeah. Okay, so pretty sure the status hasn't changed. Now we need to find out how do we tell the MySQL D exporter where it can find its credentials. So let's research that. MySQL D exporter Prometheus. Okay. To avoid putting sensitive information like username and password in the URL, you can have multiple configurations in config.mycnf file and match it by adding auth module equals section to the request. Here we have such a file that uses client and client.servers. So I guess we'll use client, okay. And then we reference that by auth module client or client.servers. Question is, where does it, how does it know which file to use? This config.mycnf file, where does that live? That's a property that we'll have to pass in as a command line flag, I think. And the default is home.my.cnf. But that's actually the case. That's there. Isn't it? Yeah, that's here. Listen to Balthazar. He's actually in the game development space and definitely knows what he's talking about. I can always try to use this config.mycnf flag. But if the default is actually to use home.my.cnf, then I wonder why that's not getting used here. Let's see. So there is actually a --config.mycnf equals path to CNF. All right. Let's see. That's in opt, right? Opt MySQL D exporter. MySQL D exporter. And so there's the --config.mycnf, and then apparently, according to this, the default is simply a .my.cnf without any path. That would explain why it doesn't pick it up. Okay, so we'll have to add that --config.my-cnf, and then we'll have to use the path that we've actually set up. That's in the systemd unit here. So we need to have this. And apparently, Copilot already knows what I'm going to do, which is nice. That definitely makes sense. And so let's converge this. Since we've changed the service definition, Chef will rewrite this unit file and try and also restart it. I didn't actually restart it. Interesting. Let's see. Ah, yes, it did restart it. Now it's running with the --config.mycnf in varlib prometheus.mycnf. Now I'm curious about the status of the service, and it's active and running. Well, that was easy. Now let's try and get some data out of there. What's the port that I need to talk to? That I can take that from the MySQL de-exporter test. It's port 9104. So if we curl localhost 9104, we get a redirect to /metrics. So let's ask it about the metrics. That doesn't look like it has much information about MySQL though. That's more the metrics about itself, I'd say. How much memory the exporter itself consumes and things like that. So let's find out how to actually query this. It might not connect to the database correctly though. No, it can't. We have that effect that root will be able to access the MySQL server with any password because of its highly privileged socket that it's using. So if I do MySQL u root-p secret as it's defined in my file, I will actually get access, even though secret has never been set as a password there. But simply for the fact that I'm root and I'm authenticating as root, that alone is sufficient. That's something that we've explored in a previous live coding stream. Okay, so do I still have coffee? I do. Now, did I use client by any chance as my... No, it's MySQL. So let's see if we try client here. What's the default? We need to define an auth module. Oh, we don't have a job setup, I think. And Prometheus needs to pass in the auth module, and we'll call that client. And then we have to define a target. So we need to actually tell the MySQL exporter to actually use a specific target. I think we can actually construct the URL manually just to give it a try. So let's see, we need a parameter auth module and a parameter target, right? Yeah, I think that's how it looks. And if we do that, so we'll call metrics with, let's put this in quotes because, yeah, I'm not sure if we'll run into some escaping issues there. The auth module at the moment needs to be MySQL because I haven't restarted the service yet. after changing the template. And then we'll need to have the target. And that's going to be localhost 3306, the usual MySQL port. If I run this, I don't get any error, but also not really something that looks like MySQL metrics. MySQL op is 0, so it doesn't look like it has access to a MySQL server that it can actually detect as op. So something's still broken in our setup here. There's a param called target. And a static parameter auth module. Let's see, the auth module, is there a default value for that? Because if there is, we can use that. Okay, collector flags. Do we need to pass in these flags? Do I have to say collect global status, for example, to get all the global status variables? Possibly. I even could hardwire the MySQL d.address flag, since we are always going to monitor localhost 3306. And that's the default, actually. Okay, so I don't have to pass that in. But still, MySQL op is 0, so it's not actually... Is that even the right way to go about it? Can I connect to localhost? Is this set up so that I can actually connect to localhost? Let's see. We don't need a password, actually. We can just say connect to localhost. Yeah, that works. Okay. Yeah, that's the out-of-the-box behavior of MySQL when it gets installed in Ubuntu. Actually, there is... I think we need to see if how the my.cnf file needs to look like. So, option file syntax. Group, name programmer group. Pretty sure we need client. MySQL is just necessary for the MySQL command line client, which the exporter is not going to use. The client option group is read by all client programs provided in MySQL distributions, but not by MySQL D to understand. Yeah, okay. Client group enables you to specify options that apply to all clients. Yeah, let's use that then. Let's go ahead and not only write this change, but also apply it. Which should also restart the MySQL D exporter now, because that's what we've built in our infrastructure code, and it does actually restart it. Let's try another status. It does run. It has all the information it needs to have. Now, how about we'll simply try and do this without any still MySQL up 0. But again, do I have to enable collector flags? Might actually be the case, because you don't want the exporter to collect everything there is every time, simply for performance reasons. So let's try and restart it with, say, something like collect global status. That should get us a lot of information about the database in a single word. And how does this work actually? So let me see. Oh, it didn't. Oh, that's interesting. It outputs that as error text. Okay. So let's see. It doesn't say what the default values for these things are, but they don't have any values. It's just collect bin log size or no collect bin log size. So it's not a single option with a boolean. It's two distinct options, actually. That's good to know. So that means if we add that to our service definition, and I need to start breaking this up so it stays readable. Collect global status, wasn't it? Yeah. So if we use this, let me verify that that did not actually get appended. Okay, system control restart the exporter. Does it still work? Yep. And now it has the -- collect global status. Now let's try another curl. Not only didn't it get the global status information. If MySQL op is 0 from the get-go, it doesn't really matter what we try and collect, because if it can't even detect that there is a MySQL server, something has to be severely wrong here. And I wonder what that is. Can I get anything with journal control here? -u MySQL D exporter, for example. Oh, okay. Oh, look at that. We actually get error pinging MySQL D, access denied for user root at localhost. Interesting. So root doesn't get access after all. Huh. At least not with the secret password that we've hardwired. What if we change that? So let's go not into our attribute definition up here, where I did set root and secret. We'll keep that as the default attribute values as it is. But there is a kitchen.yaml file where I can define different values for my configuration settings just for my test environment. And here I already have a MySQL D exporter section with a placeholder line, and here we can actually say, okay, I want to have the MySQL D username, and that is actually root, and then I want the MySQL D password, and we'll make that an empty password. Maybe that's going to work better. Let's see. If I reconverge this, we should see that in my.cnf after this is finished. There's no password anymore. And if we take a look at the status, it should have restarted 9 seconds ago. Still with collect global status. And if I try and collect the metrics, guess it's the same thing over again. And if I go into journal control, I will see that there's still error pinging. Because, yeah, I'm not sure, does root even have a root password when MySQL is installed out of the box with the standard Ubuntu package? I don't think there is a password, actually. We could use a different target. We could use the Unix socket, but that's not available to Prometheus. I think that is the problem. Yeah, that is the problem. I'm not actually executing MySQL D exporter as root, where the root user would then immediately lead to access. We are trying to have the Prometheus system user, try and connect as the root user, and without even a password. And that, of course, is not going to work. You can't just have anyone claiming their root and then expect to get access. Okay. So we'll have to use a kind of a monitoring user. And for the time being, I'll try and set this up myself manually in this test instance, simply to have some kind of a baseline from which I can work. And if I get this running, then we need to think about how do we get this set up automatically for our test scenario. So I'm going to create a user monitoring at localhost what's the latest syntax for MySQL for that? MySQL create user. Create user, if not exists, blah, 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 blah. And we can actually still pass in the identified by right away. Okay. So identified by, let's use secret. And then we'll have to grant specific values to the user as well. And I think that's actually documented in here, isn't it? Yeah. We have our example here. So there's exporter at localhost identified by password with max user connections 3. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to use that. And then we'll have to grant process, replication client, and select on all tables we are interested in to that user. So we'll use monitoring at localhost, identified by secret, no connection limit, at least not here in testing. And then grant process, replication client. And that is valid here because we're actually working on MySQL 8. Select to monitoring at localhost. Anything else? No, that's it. And then we'll also need to do a flush privileges. Or is that a thing of the past now? Now let's see. Oh, that didn't work. Doesn't work either. But this way it does. So if I do MySQL-u monitoring-p secret-h localhost, I do get access. Brilliant. And I can actually do show databases. Yep. And I can actually do select count star from MySQL. Oh, of course. MySQL is the database, so use MySQL. Show tables, user. Yeah, our monitoring user does have the access it needs. Which means I can use monitoring here. And secret. Given that I did set this up manually. Of course, I need to solve the issue of setting this up automatically as well. Okay. How about our my.cnf? Monitoring in secret. Okay, now let's do a curl. That doesn't look much different, does it? MySQL up 1. MySQL transaction isolation, repeatable read, buffer pool. Here we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Awesome. All the global variables. Not even sure if we should actually collect them. I don't think we should. Okay, let's take away the global status and see if it still returns all these global variables, because getting all of them every time we do a scrape here, that is a lot of traffic for stuff that we might not actually be interested in, because these are all global variables that are set some way, which is interesting, but we don't have to collect that every 10 seconds. We don't need that information in our monitoring metrics. We need stuff like how many queries are running at the moment and things like that. But that's outside of global status, I think. So let's go back into the service definition here, and let's remove the global collect global status. We'll just run it with the config file. Another converge. Yeah, Balthazar, exactly. I don't need to monitor if someone has changed a setting in the database or something like that. That's not really my concern at this time, at least not. So if I can get rid of all that information, I think that's a good step. Let's see the status. We have still collect global status. It does not restart the service. If I redefine the service, that is puzzling, to say the least. But I can always hard code that. Notifies. No. Wait, what? If I redefine this content, it should actually execute these actions, and it does that. It does create, enable, and start everything. But since it's already created, it does nothing. Since it's already enabled, it does nothing. And since it's already running, albeit with a different content in its unit file, since it's already started, it doesn't restart it. So, I guess I need to turn start into restart. Interesting. Let's simply remove the... nope. Let me make a change. Where can I do that? Let's simply make this a one-liner again, just so we have a change. If I convert this, it should now do a restart. And replacing start with restart is probably a bad idea too, because it'll do that every time I converge, every time I run chef, which is going to happen periodically. So wait, it did create, enable, and start, but no restart, which is also puzzling. Okay. Oh no, that's the Prometheus service. I'm an idiot. What did I do? Oh, that's the rotation. Oh, that's... yeah. I got confused. This is the Prometheus service. That's not the MySQL DE service at all. Here it does restart, yeah. Okay. It says, yeah, enable is up to date, but restart is not, because restart will always happen. The problem is, if I don't make any change and I run another converge, it'll restart again. And that's definitely not what we want. Let's see if I'm right. Where is it? Here, create is up to date, enable is up to date, but restart will again happen. Yeah, that's definitely wrong. That is wrong. That's an interesting effect, actually. But the restart definitely should be built into this resource. I shouldn't even have to bother about this. Strange, very strange. Okay, let's let's do the status again. So now we have only the config. We don't collect global status anymore. And how does the metrics now look like? We have MySQL up 1. That's still the case. There is InnoDB stuff. But all that global status stuff, no, there are still global variables. So it looks like this gets collected by default. Okay. Well, if I have no easy way of preventing that, I would probably have to pass in these different collect options. On the other hand, this is pretty quick. It doesn't seem to be longer than a few milliseconds. So collecting this every 10 seconds or so shouldn't be a problem, and yeah, let's live with that for the time being. We can always, if there's an issue, we can always find out how to disable that. But still, okay, we have a lot of stuff in here. Let's see, is there something about queries? Query response time. That's the collection response time. I would say it's in seconds, and that is 0.1 milliseconds. So I think that is fair enough. It does actually collect a slave status. Interesting. Okay. Collector success gauge. Ah, here we can see it collected the global status successfully, the global variable successfully, the InnoDB CMP and CMP mem, the query response time, and the slave status. So here we see what we might have to disable if we are not happy with all this metrics collection. Okay, now let's see what else we get about queries. Commands total. Yeah, that's amazing. So I can exactly see how... Oh, that's a count. There was one create user command in total. All right. Global status queries 104. Is that cumulative? Or is that... I can't imagine that my empty test server has been running 100 queries at this time. So we'll take a look at another metrics call and see if it simply keeps increasing, because then it's a counter. Slow query 0. Okay. These are variables, not interested. Okay, now let's do another curl and see. Yeah, that's the counter. Now we have 123 queries. And now 133. So it seems to be using 10 queries to collect all these metrics. Apparently. Okay, so this works because I've set up a monitoring user manually. If I were using our own MySQL cookbook for setting up the database, the test database in this case, I'd have all the means to set up a monitoring user. Actually, our own MySQL cookbook does set up a monitoring user by default. But the problem is this Prometheus X cookbook is supposed to be independent of our own application. And so I can't actually use our own MySQL cookbooks. That's why I am setting up MySQL simply by using the package resource that installs the MySQL server package so far. Which makes setting up a user for my test instance here a little bit more complicated, but not too complicated. All we have to do is actually execute the MySQL command. So I'll do exactly that. We'll execute MySQL. No, it's Prometheus X test MySQL user. Command create user command. We'll have to define that elsewhere because this is going to be a long string. And we'll run that as root. Let's make it explicit. And now we have to define the create user command. create user monitoring at localhost identified by secret, and then grant process replication clients. Perfect. Thanks, Copilot. Awesome stuff. And end SQL. We have to terminate both commands with a semicolon. Okay, that's the case. So after installing MySQL, we also run this Prometheus X test MySQL user command. Actually, I don't want to run that all the time Chef runs, because it only needs to run once, and that is after the package got installed. So what we'll do is I'll actually prefix this with an action nothing. So by default, this execute will not run, but I can still do a notifies run for this resource, the execute Prometheus X test MySQL user resource. And in that case, the resource will then be executed with the with the run action, which would be the default action if I wouldn't if I didn't specify action nothing here. So this command will only be executed once, and that is after the MySQL Server package has been installed. If I run then Chef subsequently, the package won't be reinstalled because it's already there, and therefore the execution of this command will also not be triggered. Which means if I want to see if this works, I will have to tear down my test instance. So instead of TKC, I'll do TKD, which is test kitchen destroy. And if I run TKC again now, it'll have to set up a new VM. This is going to take a little bit longer than before, because it has to set up the VM first and then go through all the installation steps, but there aren't too many, so it'll be a minute more or so. Okay, I just read this accompanying note. It is recommended to set a max connection limit to avoid overloading the server with monitoring scrapes under heavy load. Okay, I can see that this makes sense, because if the server is under heavy load and is actually backlogged with queries, having the monitoring exporter here piling on with its own queries, simply because it doesn't get the answers back in time, doesn't really improve the situation at all. So actually telling it, okay, open 3 connections, and if that is these are exhausted, then stop and simply wait for these connections to get satisfied, does make a lot of sense, actually. Not sure if this option was already available for MySQL 5, and since we still have MySQL 5 instances running, I need to be careful with using that in production, but it's definitely a good idea. Okay, so this did not work. As we can see, it says create not found. Yeah, that's of course because we're trying to execute MySQL on the shell, SQL on the shell. I forgot to actually add the intermediate step of running this with the MySQL user. So what we're going to do instead is we'll build the command MySQL E, create user command. That should do it. Yeah, that should actually do it. And we don't have to tear down the VM anymore because MySQL is already running. But now the package is installed. That's the downside of tying this to the package install. I would have to deinstall the package to get this executed again, which is a little bit iffy. Because now it'll probably run through and not create any user at all. Yeah. So how much time does it consume if I actually deinstall the package? Apt remove MySQL server -y. Okay, let's try that again. Now the package will be reinstalled and the create user will also be tried again. Again, if you have any questions or if you want to share anything related to what I'm doing or not, feel free to pop it into chat. Now we did actually run MySQL-E, create user, so on and so forth. Let's verify that. Let's be Prometheus. That didn't work. Okay. Doesn't it have a shell by default? Okay. -u Prometheus bash. Let's go -u monitoring -p-h localhost. Password was secret, right? Yep, here we go. That does work, which means system control. Now I've lost all my command line history because we've recreated the VM. System control status MySQL exporter. It does work. And curl localhost was 9104, right? /metrics. Bada boom. MySQL up 1. Lots of information. That's very nice. So now we've automated everything. And now we'll have to automate this test. So I'll actually do this HTTP request and look for MySQL up 1. Because that should be possible. Here in my test case, I already do the metrics call, the HTTP request at least. And yeah, it should be 200 and its body should match. And I think I'll just make this a string MySQL up 1, right? And if we do this, which I can do using TKV, that's Test Kitchen Verify, that'll run the test case for this particular test suite, which is exactly the file that I just edited. It'll try the HTTP request, and the body is expected to match MySQL up 1, and it does. Bethesda said, I really like Test Kitchen's verbs. Yep, they're great. The only thing that I had to change is I'll have to use TKS to get a login. So by this logic, it should have been TKL to log into my VM, but I've already used TKL for Test Kitchen list. So there's an ambiguity there. So I chose TKL as a list of available test suites. and then TKS to get a shell inside the test VM. But other than that, I try to use the original verbs in my abbreviations, in my aliases here. Okay, so this is looking good. Will I be able to tear this down? Let me see. I'm trying to make it a habit to use more shell features for the history, even though I do have Artuin installed, so I guess Artuin beats all the FCs and things like that, but still being able to use these shell built-ins like FC does make things a little bit easier if you're not in your familiar development environment. So maybe I should give this a try. Let me see. I'll have to look it up. Let's open a new page here. manfc. Okay. It's -s for substitute, I guess. Pattern equals replacement. And then CMD. But what is CMD actually? That's the number, right? If last is not specified, it's set to the current command for listing, so that fc-l -10 prints the last 10 commands, and to first otherwise. In the second form, command is re-executed after each instance of pat is replaced by rep. Command is interpreted the same as first above. That's up here. First and last may be specified as a string to locate the last command beginning with that string. That's helpful. That's really helpful. Okay. Okay, and the -l lists these commands too. So that's helpful. You don't have to use history. But, okay. So what I was about to do was I wanted to destroy the VM that I verified last. So if I do fc-s tkv turns into tkd, and then I'll use the last command that used tkv. Oh, nice. Okay, that's good to know. If I wanted to run the tkv command, then again, I'd say Control-R will be a little bit more useful than fc in this case, since I want to re-execute the same command. So I'll just take a look at tkv here. If I issue tkv now, verify, but the VM has just been destroyed, it'll run the previous steps, creating the VM and converging the VM automatically, and it'll end with verifying the VM. So this should actually run through the whole process, simply leaving out the last step, which would be tearing down the VM if the verification was successful. But since I don't know if the verification is going to be successful, I'll simply run it until tkv. Well, the whole test would have worked as well, because if the verification is not successful, it will not go ahead and destroy the VM. It'll leave it running so I can actually do some debugging. Fullersnabel says hello in that, and I say hello Fullersnabel, welcome to the stack. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. I'm doing well. I see my stuff succeeding here. I'm making progress. I guess the main thing that I'll need to find out is if the exporter does already export the stuff that I'm interested in, because I did not see many metrics that would tell me the state of the database in terms of how many queries are running or the execution time of the slowest query at the moment or something like that. Balthazar is working on NetPlan and Fullsnabel is working in TIC80 and built Minesweeper. Nice. Well done. Is that public anywhere? I'm running out of coffee, but that's not a problem because I'm also coming near the end of the stream anyway. Wow, that is awesome. I did not have the optimism to predict that this is going to work in one fell swoop, but it did. No, links aren't blocked. You can share whatever you want. My policy is post links if you like, but if you abuse this privilege, then it's going to be taken away from you. And to be honest, I don't remember it having been abused in the past. Let's take a look. Copy link. Ah, right into the game. Awesome. Uh-huh. That is very 8-bit. Ooh. Boom. That's where I was hiding. Very nice. Very nice. Well done. And you can execute that just like this with TIC80. That is actually pretty awesome. All right. So this did actually work. Wow, I'm surprised by myself. That means we are pretty much there, except now I need to verify that the MySQL exporter actually supplies us with the information we need, and I'm not sure if that's actually the case. This oh, that's an old shell, huh? Yep, that has been recreated, so we need to actually kill that. Why doesn't it work? Oh, I killed the whole window. That was a mistake too. Should have killed the pane, not the window. Yeah, so let's get a new shell here. Nope, that did not work. Let's see. Let's try this again. FC -s TKV equals TKS, where we executed TKV. Now curl localhost 9104/metrics. You know what? The information we need might be hidden in these counters, for example. since they are monotone counters, we would have to, we need Prometheus to create the difference to the previous value, and that way we can actually tell how many queries have been run in the meantime. Global status connections 11, that's something we can alert on. 11 connections? That's also cumulative. Must be. Untyped. That's all from global status, so that's more a MySQL thing than anything else. I'll have to take a look at that. But global status is what monitoring systems usually use, I guess. So I think we are good. Let's try and these are all the variables. Connections 12. Connection 13. Yep. Every time I request metrics, it's a new connection. And max connection is set to 151 here. Okay. But if I want the current number of connections, how do I get that? Total number throughout history connections. Yeah, that's exactly what I figured. Through the threads connected. Okay, so let's see. Do we get that? Is there something like threads? Yes, there is. Threads connected. Yeah, 1. Okay. That's also the information we are looking for. How many connections do we have? How do we have in max? That's 151. So we are, with 1 connection, we are far below the 151, and that's fine. So everything is good. Yes, Fullsnapper said, yeah, tick 8 is super easy to publish the static page. You write export HTML your game name.tick. Then just upload that to GitHub Pages, and it'll run, I guess, as a virtual console. Okay. Huh. Web technology. It's all magic. Okay. So I think we're done on this side of things. No, that's not going to work because we're in the VM. We're here. Yeah, I think the whole setup for the MySQL de-exporter is done. And now I have to integrate that into our specific environment where I pass in the actual MySQL user that we'll have to use for monitoring and stuff like that. But that's not going to be much effort anymore. That's just modifying these node attributes with existing details. So yeah, this is actually looking good. I think I'm going to commit this, and we'll do a git rebase as well. So what have we here? Working process, wrong variable name. That's a system file still. Ah, yes, I'm not in the directory, and that's the problem. What I wanted to was the local changes. Yeah, I think that's when I started working on this 3 weeks ago. Yeah. We have 2 work in progress commits. We'll have to rebase and rewrite them, of course. So let's do a grb-i master, but that's default, I think. No, grb-i master. Revert the first one, merge the second one. However, we still need to do a few more changes. But yeah, let's rewrite this. Okay. Okay, you won. Person I wrote, you know which Muppet is the best programmer? Kermit. Because he commits a lot of code. Yep. That's a really good pain level. I actually need to write that down. Oh, did you actually use Kermit to access BBSs? I don't think I ever used Kermit, to be honest. I did try to use it, especially when I started using Linux, where Kermit was then available from the get-go by installing all the typical packages like USCP and stuff. But I don't think I was able to make sense of it, if I recall that correctly. So I only used terminal programs like SyncTerm or something like that. You set up your first BBS in 2020. Okay. Yeah, I predate that by a little. I set up my first and real BBS back in 1991, I think. Now, that is a feature for Prometheus X. Set up MySQL D exporter. This feature sets up the MySQL D exporter. To monitor a local MySQL server. Not sure what else to write about this. But my full test suite will first check if I have made a proper version bump and the corresponding changelog entry, which I don't think I have. Let's verify that. In metadata.rb, we are at version 101. In the changelog, that is extract the data processing and stuff, so we'll have to bump the version first. Timing issues with my keyboard here. What I wanted to do is rake bump. Minor. New feature. So it's 110. Let's do the changelog entry for that. Version 110. It's the 12th. Added. Set up. Set up MySQL D exporter. Okay, that's that. And that should actually make sure that rake test does work. As you can see, it checked. Okay, local version is 110. It's not uploaded to the chef server yet. 101 was the last one that's remote on the chef server. There is a changelog entry. Style checks also went through successfully, and now it's going to run all the test suites with their corresponding VMs. That's going to take a few minutes. Yeah, that should prove that MySQL monitoring does actually work. Bethesda said my access to the internet as a kid was heavily moderated, so I didn't get access to a lot of the OG corners of the internet and pre-internet. That's a shame, because that was really great. Fullesnabel, speaking of Amiga demos, what I showed earlier on the stream, I don't think you've seen that before. I need to take it off the wall. Look at that. What do you think? Isn't that the bestest of clocks? I really had to get it, because not only is it an analog clock that is an actual analog clock, but back when I got the Amiga and its graphical user interface, that was the first home computer I had with a graphical user interface. And of course, it had an analog clock application, and it was amazing seeing a graphical interface where you have an analog clock with the hands actually moving. That was mind-blowing to me. And so when I saw that someone did actually build clocks in the Workbench style, I had to get it. Because that really takes me back to that initial feeling of, whoa, it's not only digital, which you could do with any Sinclair ZX81, it's analog. And here we go, test suites are chugging along nicely. Thankfully, this cookbook is not that complex. Its installations run pretty quickly, so Test Kitchen is actually able to churn through these test suites one by one quite quickly. Which leaves me a little bit of time to think about the next step. So I need to now adapt the Prometheus cookbooks that build upon this one. There I have to actually just set the node attributes to the password that we already install for the monitoring user. And of course, add the MySQL exporter recipe to the run list, and that should actually take care of that. Easy. Brilliant. Okay. Oh, yes. To be a teenager in the 90s, or even in the 80s. Yeah, 80s. Samantha Fox definitely is 80s. Monochrome image of Samantha Fox on the C64 and a 3-second 8-bit sample. Much better than photos and cassette decks because, yep, it's on the computer where you spend your time anyway. Can relate. Definitely had Sam Fox on my computer as well. Sierra games, also legendary, yep. I didn't have too many. I remember playing King's Quest, I think. But back then, I think that was the only one I ever got. And I wasn't into point-and-click adventures that much, so... I actually, when I started buying stuff on Steam, I actually got the Deponia adventures, and they're nicely done. But again, they didn't quite catch with me. I have to try that again on the Steam Deck if they're properly supported. Space Quest, yeah, of course. Space Query. Damn you, muscle memory. Yeah, definitely. And I think quite a few of them are actually available on Steam. And there are also newer point-and-click adventures. And that makes me realize I did play through... what's her name? Kathy... Was it Kathy Sierra? Did they name their protagonist? After Sierra Online? I only realized that now. Oh no, I'm confusing that with Kathy Sierra of the book author fame. Yeah, that's not what I meant. What's the name? I gave my Steam Deck to my son earlier, so I can't actually reference that. No, it was Kathy Ryan. Okay, Kathy Ryan. Wasn't it? No. What? Wait. Steam Adventure Kathy. It was Kathy, I'm pretty sure. Kathy Rain. Here we go. Yeah, I did play through Kathy Rain with a little bit of help from a guide. So I'm not completely averse to point-and-click adventures. I need more time for the Steam Deck. All right. Test suites finished all successfully. The final one did also end up with MySQL Op 1. That's great. So we'll commit this and merge it back into the original commit. Could have used git amend too. Since I already used git whip earlier, which also does a git push at the end, I already have something that's not rebased yet on the GitLab side, so I'll have to do a force push with the rebased history. And now I can actually do a merge request. Oh, that's already nice. I'll let Marcus approve that. That's all fine. Create merge request. Unfortunately, our test setup on the CI server is broken at the moment, and I'm actually going to remove these test runs on the CI server because I figured we run these tests on our workstations before pushing and submitting merge requests, and we can make that a rule or a convention. And having a heavy-duty server running for the one merge request we send per day at the max in a good week doesn't really make sense. But you need quite the specific CI setup because again, the test setup needs to be able to spin up VMs and stuff like that, so you can't just use the standard GitHub or GitLab workers here or runners. And yeah, I don't think running this test suite in CI does make much sense, and basically just adds to cost that's not really worth it. So I'll actually remove the test runs from our CI pipeline. The only thing that will remain is that after merging a merge request, the cookbook will automatically be deployed to our chef server, but that doesn't require any VMs or stuff, so that can run from a simple normal GitLab runner as GitLab itself provides us with. And so yeah, that should actually do the trick. And we can remove one server from our long list of servers that we're hosting in the data center. Yeah, Full Example, I did actually not only see it, I posted it to our Discord server a few days ago. I actually posted it to chat earlier at the beginning of this stream. And I decided I'll make something like that, a viewer reward, where I will do some DevOps ASMR for you if you have the required inodes. And Balthasar, that's something that I considered as well. Running a GitLab runner, say on my workstation here, where there is enough horsepower and there is the actual VM setup already done and everything. That's also something that we could actually do. Maybe I'll still go this route. That's something that I considered in the past, where I said, okay, let's tear down our central server that is running on idle all the time while we are still paying for it, and simply use our workstations as GitLab runners. That might actually be a good compromise. I'll have to look into that, what is necessary to run a remote runner from my workstation. I think it's pretty straightforward, actually, isn't it? That's something we can do in one of my future live streams, and I'll actually make a note on that. DevOps is a meaningful term, yep. There will be no incident today. That's something that I'm going to prepare for the stream on Thursday. DevOps ASMR. We're doing it. Okay, so yeah, while this pipeline is still running, it'll break at, all the test suites will eventually fail, and then it'll return a fail. I'll still leave this up, and we can merge it manually. Do a force merge if we agree on that, and that's that. That basically concludes not only my task for today, but also my stream for today. And I'm going to see if there's anyone online that we can raid. You know what? Bald Bearded Builder is back online with his hour-long co-working streams. So let's say hello to BBB and celebrate that he's back. Alrighty. Let me set that up. Ha, he's not even around, is he? Taking a break. The slacker. Yeah, he's not even around. Grabbing some coffee or some lunch. No, that's no fun then. I'll still recommend dropping by and saying hello, but we'll have to find someone else. Jason Lengstorff is online. Yeah, why not say hello to Jason? That is definitely the better option. Okay. So let's start the raid. If you want to join our Discord server, you can do so. We are a nice, friendly bunch of people over there. You can ask your questions there. I'll have another live coding stream on Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. Irish time, which also happens to be UTC at the moment. And on Friday at 2 p.m. I'm going to do another office hour where you can drop by and get your questions answered. And if you're interested in joining a community of DevOps people that is completely focused on your growth and improving your skills and career, then I recommend taking a look at the upcoming Monospace Mentor community called the Server Room. And I'm going to launch that in a few weeks' time. And by joining the waitlist, you can actually get access to a 50% lifetime discount code that will save you 50% of the membership fee for the duration of your subscription. And so that's going to be a great deal. Only the first 20 people who sign up with that discount code will get the discount. So join the waiting list and you'll get the discount code by email as soon as I send you the launch announcement. I'm pretty excited about the server room. It's going to be great. And since it's going to be a paid membership, it'll allow me to spend a lot of time in there, a lot of time working not only on learning material, but even on one-on-one mentorship with all the members. You'll get access to a one-on-one coaching call every month and additional support via email and chat. So it's definitely worth the admission, and I hope to see you in the server room when it launches. That being said, let's go ahead and raid Jason Lengstorff. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chatting. I'll be back on Thursday. And until then, take care.